In this video, I'm going to talk about effects in your renderings, more specifically watercolor and sketch effects, when to use it and why. My name is Katerina, I'm a garden designer and cineast. So welcome to another garden design tools video. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about effects, more specifically watercolor and sketch effects. I'm going to use Lumion again, but there are other programs that you can create, or post-production programs like Photoshop, that you can actually transform your rendering images into a watercolor or a sketch more feel-like effect, okay? So when should you use them? And this is a personal opinion of mine, and why? There is a problem with creating renderings too early in your project phase, okay? That it creates the feeling that materials there, because they are realistic renderings, it might induce the client to think that's the final materials, that's the final colors, that's the final plants. And sometimes you don't want that decision yet in that early stage of your design. So you want to show your design ideas, you want to use renderings to do it, but you might not want to have that finished image, that realistic finished image to show to your client, because it's going to induce them in error, okay? Because you might say, look, this is just a first idea of some things, but if the client loves it and is a perfect image and is stone on the walls and is curtain still in the water features, and maybe you're not even sure yet that's the exact materials that you want to suggest, but the client is going to have that idea, okay? That's what you sold and he loved it. So even after, if you want to change, it might be a bit more complicated. So that's when I suggest you can, maybe if you want to use programs like Lumion, but still in an early stage, that you just want to show the layout or and the feel of it, or maybe some colors and textures, I think sketch effects inside Lumion or watercolor effects, okay, like I'm going to show you here a watercolor now. It's a bit, I prefer to be, let me check out sketch one. I prefer the sketch one, to be honest, okay? It still has a lot of because it's the same exact model. So you have the materials and you have a feel, but it's not going to convince the client of the materials. He might not even notice so much the materials. He's going to probably look more into the layout, or if you beside him, you can show him different things, but it's not so realistic. So it's a great idea to have this kind of effects in your images if you're in an early stage, if you're not sure that's the materials you're going to suggest or not, okay? If you're using renderings that early stage in the process, in your projecting a garden, this is a great way to don't compromise so much in the materials, okay? And it's fairly easy inside Lumion to add effects. I'm just going to show you quickly here. So basically in Lumion you have custom effects, and you have realistic, color sketch, and watercolor already here in presets. What is they done here is the Lumion team programmers, they did these presets already done, so you can just tweak them a little bit after, okay? So I prefer the color sketch, to be honest, because it's pretty cool. You have a couple of sketch options, okay, sketch styles that you can still change. And all this you could have done with using programs like Photoshop, okay? But the great thing about Lumion is that you have all this inside Lumion, okay? So you don't have to use any post-production program after. But you have different types of sketches, like you see here. You can change the colors, the layouts, the outlines, all this, okay? The fade out. You can change the fade out. I don't know if you can catch that or not. It's changing a little bit. The accuracy, okay. So it just makes the lines a bit stronger. So I like this a lot, and I think it's a great way, like I said, to don't compromise your design choices so early in the process, okay? Because it's very easy and to get enthusiastic about your design, and maybe you've chosen a certain material just because you thought you look good first, and you did the renderings like that, and you showed the client like that, and that's ends up the material you have to, because the client loved it so much, because of your images are great, so the client loved it so much that end up having to choose that specific material. And maybe you just chosen that material at the stage where you just wanted to look the rendering to look good, you know. So that's a big concern regarding renderings, and specifically realistic looking renderings, okay? Using them too early in your process. In my Hindu scenario, I know we get a bit too excited to show the client the great image, but you have to be careful. Or if you're choosing to show a great image, be careful that the materials you're gonna choose for the rendering are the materials probably you're gonna choose after in the process of construction. So, because if the client really loves it, he wants it like you said you're gonna do it in your images, okay? So be very careful. If not, choose this kind of style of color sketch or watercolor. Watercolor is even more blurry, more dreamlike, but you have a great way to show. Maybe I'll just take the brightness a bit out. Let me just see what we have here in options. But it's a great way to show some of your ideas, even in a presentation, in a portfolio. It looks great to have this kind of images sometimes, okay, if you want to tell a story of your design, okay? So in Lumion you have quite a lot of effects. To be honest, some of them are pretty random, okay? I'll never use this is ridiculous, okay? Could you do something with it? And I never thought about it. Maybe if you need for a presentation for a certain look, maybe you could use this. I find it hard to believe, but maybe you could use this. There is other effects like AI artist style. So you basically choose a style from a famous painter, okay? And you apply to your project, and this is just really fun. I don't think you'll ever use this, to be honest. And this, I forgot, this ones it can't be previewed, so when you're rendering, it's gonna render like that. But yeah, that one is a bit more ridiculous. But the sketch ones and the watercolor ones, I think they are useful. Like I said, in that early stage when you don't want to compromise your material choices and even planting choices, okay? In here, it gives you a bit more room to change it after, okay? So your client will not feel so much in love with your images, and you have a little bit more room. Saying that, your client might not get too impressed either. Okay, so that's something you need to think about, because the great thing about images in Lumion is that they create final images, and they are amazing, and they have the lighting, and it's the sun and the shadows and the textures. They are amazing. So that's a big plus. That's something you need to think about. So my final suggestion regarding effects, I'm gonna tell you what I do. I never use them, okay? I might use them if I'm getting a presentation going, and after I already actually done my project. So the things are done there, the choices are made, but maybe I want to use in my website for some reason, or in a portfolio. Maybe I'll do a couple of watercolors or sketch images, but maybe I did that once in 100 times or something like that, okay? So what I do with regarding renderings, and that's I think you need to be careful about, is when I do the images, my choice of materials are done, okay? Make sure you don't have something just to look good on the renderings and saying, oh no, I'm gonna tell the client this is just the first image, so we can, this is not gonna be the wood I'm gonna choose anyway, this is gonna be something else, it's gonna be gravel here or something. So have something. I'm not saying it needs to be the exact material, but when I do the renderings and I present them the first time to the client, the main choices of materials are done, okay? After, if something changes, is normally the client's choice or budget choice, okay? But you'll understand that, okay? not when you present something and saying, oh, maybe I'll do this in cement or whatever, and it's actually impossible to do it or something like this. Okay, so just when I do the presentation to the client, it's normally with the choices already made, the decision is already made in terms of materials and textures. Okay, and plants, of course, after there are changes, but I try to get the main planting ideas as well pretty made up by the time I present the images. Okay, so I hope you liked the video, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye bye.